Warriors, welcome to this video. Today we're talking about stimulants, we're talking about coffee, we're talking about alcohol. Robyn is with us again. How are you, Robyn?
I'm excited to be back for another video. Last week's video on supplements for anxiety, we had such great feedback from all of you. I hope we helped a lot of you. So we thought we'd come back with the next biggest question we do get. And that is on mainly coffee. Some people ask about tea as well, and alcohol. A lot of people, Dennis, do you actually drink alcohol still? Or were you able to drink it during your recovery? Or can I have coffee in the morning? Is that going to make me more anxious, or is it contributing at all to my anxiety? So we're here to answer those questions.
It's interesting. I do get that question a lot. And let's just set everything clear today. I have a glass of wine maybe once a week. And I really milk that glass of wine.
You really do.
I don't drink it that fast. I rarely ever finish it. And I don't drink any beer or highballs or anything like that. So I just want to set it all clear here and say, you know what, I'm big on things like coconut water. I'm big on purified mountain spring water. So those are basically things, and then juices from here and there. But other than that, as to answer all your questions, no, I'm not much of a drinker at all.
Yeah, and some of you are kind of wondering, well, how do you not get through your day without that? Or, you know, because that is a normal thing. A lot of people rely on the stimulants throughout the day. So we're going to answer those questions here today as well, how you can minimize your caffeine and alcohol intake.
Huge.
So first off, caffeine is a drug. I hate to break it to you all. Just as little as 100 milligrams of caffeine a day cause withdrawal symptoms. So if you're feeling irritable, sleepy, all these things after caffeine one day, then they're probably just feeding your withdrawal symptoms the next day, and you're not actually feeling any more awake or alert.
Right. You're
just helping those symptoms.
Right. And the other thing we have to really understand, because I've got a story I want to tell the Warriors a little bit, and that kind of leads into what we want to talk about in a second, which is the reactions, the symptoms, okay, and the sensations. So, and I'm not going to tell anybody to go ahead and do this, but I got to a point in my anxiety disorder that I was so frustrated with how things were going that I said, once and for all, I need to defy my fears. I need to move towards those sensations, those symptoms that were scaring me so much. So what I did was I went and had a couple of cups of coffee, knowing what coffee does to me and other people, makes them anxious, and many other things that Robyn's going to talk about as far as symptoms go. But I took that opportunity to get comfortable in that moment with my symptoms and my sensations, and to kind of begin promoting a new way of looking at those symptoms and sensations. It wasn't a dangerous thing. It wasn't a need to kind of overcome. It was a want. It was an uncomfortable thing. It wasn't a life-threatening thing. So me moving towards the coffee day that I had, where I drank a couple cups of coffee, really changed my mindset and gave me a lot more clarity. So I would really love you guys to listen up when Robyn talks about the symptoms that come with the stimulants.
So caffeine is a sleep disruptor. Studies show that people who drink caffeine get about 2 to 3 hours less of sleep per evening. It really disrupts your melatonin, and melatonin regulates our sleep-wake cycle. So that's why people say, you know, don't drink coffee in the afternoon or in the evening. That's the main reason. But even if you're drinking it in the morning, you're still getting less sleep. It is still interrupting your sleep-wake cycle. So that's huge. So you want your body and mind to be, you know, well rested. And people who don't drink caffeine don't feel any better than people who do. So that right there just goes to show that you really don't need that cup of coffee.
Very interesting.
So ways that we can minimize our coffee intake. Because some of you are thinking, oh my gosh, no, I need my cup of coffee in the morning. I need it in the morning. And I was one of them, for sure. Dennis was never really the biggest coffee drinker, but tea.
Huge.
And when we would go to a little cafe, I would get my cup of coffee, which had 5 times the amount of a regular cup of coffee, or 5 times the amount of caffeine as a regular cup of coffee. And Dennis would get his green tea, and he always felt like, why do I feel normal from green tea at home, But I'm having a cup of green tea out, and it's in a grande size, and there's two tea bags.
Yeah.
They do that on purpose.
They do that on purpose.
Make you want more and make you need more, basically. So one way you can do really try to start cutting back your caffeine intake is by literally cutting your cups of coffee or tea in half. So for me, I would have a cup of coffee every day. So I'd cut it to half a cup of coffee every day. The following week, I would cut that even again in half and start taking days off from coffee. Now, if you feel like you can really just let go, then you can. You will have withdrawal symptoms. But if you can, by the end of that week, maybe the first few days will be a bit rough. But at the end of that week, you're going to feel like you've had such great sleep. You're going to remember your dreams. They're going to be vivid again. You're going to just enjoy your day. And it's actually, you'll see the sense of clarity when you don't need those stimulants in your life to get you through the day.
Right. And we touched a little bit on the green tea part, but there's also different replacements that people can replace some of these habits with.
Yeah, they're great.
I know people have said, like you mentioned, green tea is one. What about things like matcha?
So matcha does still have a high caffeine amount in it. I would stay clear from matcha, but you want to add things in like rooibos tea, red bush tea. And what I love about rooibos is it almost mimics that feeling of caffeine or coffee.
Right.
And it's very grounding. It gives you that kind of uplifting mood feeling in the morning. If not, Dennis is a big lover of chamomile tea.
Love chamomile tea.
What's another one that we do? We do ginger turmeric.
Ginger turmeric in grounded form. So we've just started doing that in the last 6 months or so, where we've put ginger and turmeric in our tea, and it's an acquired taste.
I love it. I don't even think it's acquired.
I really like it. I'm enjoying it. And I remember being in Barcelona and having my first turmeric tea, which was really good. It's like, what is this? This is interesting. And it's good for you, and it tastes good. So that's one. Green tea is another for me. Chamomile tea is another. And Robyn mentioned rooibos tea.
Warm lemon water is great.
Warm lemon water is great.
But something you really want to remember, what is so crucial in coming off of caffeine, is keeping your blood sugar regulated throughout the day with protein. Because if you are getting that energy through foods and nutrition, you're not going to need it through the stimulants.
Right.
This is the biggest way you can have success in stopping your caffeine. So for me, once I really did realize when I was eating a great breakfast, snacks, lunch, like dinner kind of thing, I was almost like, oh my gosh, it's 1 PM. I didn't even think about coffee.
I didn't even have a coffee.
Yeah, so that is a major part in recovery from caffeine.
And I also want to add the idea of how, it's a bit of a placebo as well. And we think that something is going to do something to us, and therefore we think that we need it, when in fact, when we begin to train a new habit, when we begin to replace one thing with another, very quickly we realize that that thing that we thought we needed, we didn't in fact need. And it's like anything else, when I start my mornings, I start it with a meditation session, which gives me that feeling of I'm starting the day right. I've got the proper breathing patterns. My posture is good. I'm stretching out my body. There's a lot of things there with meditation, yoga. So, but on this note here, let's understand the connection, the pairing, because we talk about pairings quite a bit in associations with CBT and NLP. Let's understand the pairing. And when we get past the pairing, things become a lot simpler. Right?
I know once I found out personally that caffeine was bad for me and it was a drug, when I put in that classification, I just thought I need to stop. And all of a sudden all these puzzle pieces came together. This isn't good for me. Especially when I found out that caffeine actually exhausts your adrenal function.
Huge.
And that's something that's so important for people with anxiety. It actually hinders dopamine and adrenaline. And Dennis talks about dopamine and adrenaline all the time, and the inability to produce these important chemicals, your motivation, you're going to go into depression, exhaustion, and all that bad stuff, and it's kind of a snowball effect. So it's really important, if it's affecting your adrenals, you really don't want to have it when you you're trying to recover from anxiety.
And that becomes a bit of a back and forth game. I get a lot of questions, people asking me, what's a great adrenal fatigue supplement out there? And yet they're still partaking in certain stimulants and trying to make up for that. And does that work?
No,
that doesn't
it really
work.
Doesn't. No, not at all.
It doesn't work. So replacements of these stimulants are really, really important. Training new habits and such, and just understanding that, you know what, you don't need these things, you want these things, okay? But don't let the media or certain businesses or companies out there push you in the direction to make you feel like you need something that you in fact don't need, right? And again, it comes down to habits.
And if all of you are really depressed right now thinking, oh my gosh, I can't have my coffee, once you have kind of gotten through, you haven't had your coffee for a couple weeks now, you aren't craving it, we're not saying you can't have that cup. If you have no actual desire to have that cup of coffee, then 1 cup of coffee a week isn't going to hinder. But if you are going through recovery for anxiety and you do sense some sort of adrenal exhaustion, then it's best to cut it out entirely.
All right, guys, so we touched on coffee a little bit. We need to get into the next stimulant, which is alcohol. Robyn, tell us about alcohol.
Okay, so the biggest way we like to forget about our worries this day and age is through alcohol. And alcohol is really our brain's worst enemy. The moment you start to get drunk, it actually causes damage to our brains. So when people are asking, you know, how much alcohol is too much, or do you drink alcohol, or can I drink alcohol? We have to remember some very important things. Alcohol robs us of our current nutrients and vitamins. So when we're drinking, we're not going to be feeling optimal for recovery, and it is going to be heightening our senses of anxiety for days after. So people are always kind of interested in, will it affect me in my anxiety or not? Some people are more, you know, they feel like they can have, you know, that 1 glass of wine or 1 serving of beer a night. And I believe that's because, you know, alcohol really does promote GABA in small amounts to the point where you're not getting drunk. If your liver is detoxifying the alcohol properly, then it's not leading up to your brain and causing that damage as if you were getting drunk. So it really doesn't matter if you're, you know, going all week and then you go on a binge weekend and get drunk, because if you're getting drunk, then you're depleting your mental performance. So we kind of learned from our 87-year-old friend, and I think that's why Dennis kind of does when he has that glass of wine. He kind of just enjoys it through the night, because our 87-year-old friend, he does the same thing. He pours his glass of wine, and I really do feel like it is inhibiting his neurotransmitter GABA. It's promoting relaxation. You know, if you're not feeling it to the point of you're getting drunk, then, you know, I feel like it's okay. Again, if you're highly anxious and depressed and you're going through recovery, it really is important to stay clear. Dennis stayed clear, and it really helped in his recovery.
Big time. It's funny you mentioned our 87-year-old friend, because I just had an aha moment.
Basically our family.
Our family friend. So I had a realization there that unconsciously I may have picked up some of those patterns.
Totally.
Yeah.
Me too. Me
So,
too.
you know,
I was always like, what does he do? I want to do what he does, because he just seems so
we do
mentally clear, and, you know.
Yeah. We say, oh my goodness. Like, that's when I went to a senior citizens home once. I asked these people, hey, you know, and a lot of them looked really good. And I said, you know, what sort of habits are you doing right now? What sort of things do you do and such? I asked those questions. But our friend, just like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, sips his wine, rarely ever finishes it, has it with things like feta cheese. And there are certain habits that he just does, but everything is slow and in very small amounts.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
There's
And
a
I
certain
think that's
balance.
the key. That is the key to alcohol. So people are always wondering, you know, can I have it? Can I not have it? Depending on where you are in your recovery, I think is, you know, everyone's different as well, and how it affects them.
Warriors. So in closing this video, a couple of main key components that we can begin to take and begin to use in our lives. Robyn, what are those?
So I really can't stress enough how important it is to either reduce or cut out completely these stimulants. Alcohol and caffeine, we really don't need them, especially if we're trying to recover from anxiety or stress, depression, any of those. And really, you want to check the labels of things, because caffeine can be hidden. Things like chocolate, obviously, that's something that we all know about, but check any prepackaged labels because caffeine could be hidden in there. And if you're having chocolate in the evening, remember how that really can throw your whole sleep cycle off balance. So if you're cutting these out completely, you're gonna feel a vast difference. You're gonna feel that clarity that we talked about. Your sleep is just gonna be so much better, and you're just gonna feel like you have that energy, especially if you're getting it through the foods during the day, and you're just not gonna have to rely on these stimulants anymore.
Beautiful. So guys, it comes down to self-awareness. Get some self-awareness going in your life, recognize the patterns, recognize the habits, how you're feeling and such, and take some value from this video, share it with other people. Love you guys so very much. You are more than anxiety. We'll see you soon.